Greetings, everyone. I am Pete Pardo from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another episode of Ranking the Epic Songs. So, on this particular series, we take a look at a band who has a good chunk of songs that are of that epic length. Could be 7 minutes or longer, 8 minutes or longer, 10 minutes or longer. All depends on the band, right? We try not to go too low because there are lots of bands in prog and metal who like to do 6+ minute songs, and you could have half a catalog, right? But we take a look. Each band is different. We've done some where it's been 10 minutes have been the cutoff. Others it's been 7 or 8. So we kind of look at each band. It's its own unique case, right? In this particular band, 7 minutes seemed to be the cutoff point that made sense. So the band is Rush. They've got 16 songs that go over the 7 minute mark. Of course, I let one in that is 6:59. I figure for the 1 second, we're going to give it a pass here. Because depending on where you look, some say 7 minutes, some say 6:59. It's like, okay, whatever. But 16 tracks, highlighted mostly by songs from the early part of the catalog. Interesting band in that early on, there's a good chunk of this list comes from the 70s releases. And then nothing really from the whole middle part and latter part of the catalog until the very, very end. The very last album. So again, 16 tracks in total. I'm going to rank them as I like them. You know the drill, everybody. Rank them as you like them down in the comments below. Remember, there's no right or wrong answer. Everybody likes the songs as they like them. So my list and my ranking is probably going to be different from yours. That's okay. It'll be interesting to see what you guys come up with down there in the comments below, but I'm going to tackle them here right now. So let's take a look, and we're going to go to number 16. So my number 16 is going to be a song from the very, very first album, clocking in at 7 minutes and 30 seconds, thereabouts. The album says 7:34. Depends on where you look. It is Here Again from the self-titled debut from Rush. Good song. It's moody, kind of bluesy. It's got some kind of, like heavy, bluesy, doomy guitars from Alex. I like Geddy's vocals quite a bit on it. Nothing overly complicated about it. It's more of a mood piece, but I think it's really good. It's just probably my least favorite among all these, and it was never one of my absolute favorite tracks off the first album, but I do like it. But when you have such a strong list here as we do, it comes in at number 16 for me. So Here Again from the first album is my number 16. Number 15, I'm going to go to Clockwork Angels. I'm going to go to Headlong Flight. Clocking in at Clockwork Angels, clocking in at 7:19. Headlong Flight. Good riffing on the song. I like the energy of the song. It's a fun song. You know, Geddy, I think, is still trying to wail like he used to, but obviously very limited vocally at this point in time. Can't really do what he used to do. But I think he gives it a good shot. I think it's a good track. I like it. But it comes in at number 15 for me. Number 14, also from Clockwork Angels, touching down at 7 minutes or 6:59. It says 6:59 on the album. I didn't want to not include it. I'm going to go with The Garden. Great vocal melodies. It's just a memorable song. It's got emotion, which I really like. I know a lot of people really love The Garden. I think it's a really great track. It's one of the standout tracks on this album. Unfortunately, it's up against a lot of heavy hitters on this list because I think some people might consider putting it higher. I totally get it. But once you start going through this list of songs, you're kind of like, all right, The Garden is great, but it's up against some really, really tough competition here. But yeah, The Garden is good. Great closer for this album. I think it sees the band going out on their last album on a really high note. Very melodic, very memorable, a lot of emotion. So The Garden is my number 14. Number 13, I'm going to go to Caress of Steel for The Fountain of Lamneth at 1957, right? What do they say on here? 1958, right? Depends on where you look this up. You can go to like Wikipedia. You can go to Discogs. You can go. There's all sorts of places where you can go look up track lengths, and you'll get something different everywhere you go. So it's always off by a second or two or three. But anyway, I like The Fountain of Lamneth, right? Maybe it's a little bloated. few too many solos and things like that. I still think there's a lot of really good parts to it that, again, foreshadow where they would go, starting with the next album, and certainly the ones that come right after that. I think the building blocks of things like 2112 and Cygnus and whatnot are happening on this album, are happening definitely on the Fountain of Lamneth. I like it. It's good, heavy. The lyrics are, Neil with all this fantasy stuff. I dig it. I think it's really good. They have better epics, obviously, but I still like it a lot, and it's heavy, and it's proggy. I dig it. So the Fountain of Lamneth, number 13. Next up at number 12, I'm going to go, and this clocks in at 10:58, right? Yep, got that correct with the back of the album. From Moving Pictures, The Camera Eye. Now, I remember as a kid, growing up, when this album first came out, I think I've told this story before on the channel, I basically listened to side one constantly, and I kind of didn't listen to side two nearly as much. In fact, I kind of ignored it for many, many years. Although Witch Hunt I liked a lot because, again, I wasn't Mr. Prog back then. I was all about the heavier stuff, and I found that Camera Eye and Vital Signs were a little lacking for me. Now, all these years later, because I've heard side one so many millions of times, I tend to go right to side two when I want to listen to this, or the second half of the CD, as it were. And I think Camera Eye is really nice. It's totally proggy. It's got some really nice synth work from Getty. It's just a really good track. Really good track. Good melodies. I like it. Very, very good song. The Camera Eye, number 12. Number 11, I'm going to go with the title track to Clockwork Angels. I really like it. It's I don't know if it's my favorite song on here, but it's a top 3 for sure. I think Clockwork Angels has aged really, really well. I like this quite a bit. I tend to listen to this more than any of the latter period Rush albums. Counterparts in this tend to be my favorites of the latter part of the catalog. I love the chorus, Clockwork Angels. It rocks, it's proggy, it's really, really good, and it clocks in at 7 minutes and 31 seconds. So that's my number 11 pick, Clockwork Angels. All right, now's where it gets really hard, because like everything in the top 10 are just, they're great songs. I'm going to go number 10. I'm going to go to Permanent Waves for Natural Science, clocking in at 9:18. Yeah, I know it could be higher. And, I look at my number 10 here and I look at number 9. I probably could have switched them around because Natural Science is great and it's so heavy. And man, that just riffing from Alex is it's just so intense, really intense song. I really, really like it a lot. Could be, it's definitely Natural Science. Some parts of it are some of the heaviest stuff the band ever did. But like I said, it's totally progressive and totally intricate, and it's a really great album. Permanent Waves, so good. So yeah, 9:18, Natural Science clocking at number 10. Again, could rank a little bit higher. And again, some may argue that I probably should swap it with my number 9, which is The Necromancer, which is 12 minutes and 28 seconds from Caress of Steel. I have a real soft spot for The Necromancer. Yeah, it's kind of cheesy, right? You got the weird narration from Neil and all these kind of doomy parts and all. I just dig it. I think it's dark, it's menacing, it's crushing. There's some pretty crazy guitar work in here, and I just really like it a lot. I've always liked The Necromancer. I like the way it kind of takes you on a journey, right? Then the second half is a little more uplifting. You get that great guitar solo from Alex. I really like The Necromancer a lot. I know some people don't care for it as much, and that's cool, but I have a soft spot for it. So that's my number 9. The Necromancer. Coming up next, I'm going to go with, again, another great track. Jacob's Ladder from Permanent Waves, clocking in at 7:30. It's one of their great songs. Love the slow build to it. It's just so good. Getty's bass, right? And the vocals are so great. The way it builds, it's full of drama. And yeah, so good. Jacob's Ladder. Absolutely terrific. Number 8. Number 7, I'm going to go with Baitaw and the Snow Dog from Fly By Night, clocking in at 8:37. Studio version's great. I actually like the version from All the World's a Stage even more. It's a little heavier. Alex's cool guitar effects and things like that are even more wild sounding on the live version, but the studio's great too. Again, really their first song doing this whole progressive metal thing. The first album was more of a hard rock album. Here, you're starting to see little bits of that proggy side of theirs. And By Tor and the Snow Dog, just it's intricate, it's heavy, it's just some great parts to it. Really, really good. The lyrics, here's Neil doing all this fantasy stuff, just great stuff. Yeah, I love it. By Tor and the Snow Dog from Fly By Night comes in at number 7. Coming in at number 6, it's epic. It's not proggy like some of this other stuff, but it's still amazing. Working Man from the first album comes in at number 6, clocking in at 707 or 710, as the album says. I love Working Man. It's got all sorts of cool parts. It's heavy. Again, this is heavy metallic blues rock, basically. Proto-metal, hard rock, whatever the hell you want to call it, but Working Man is so good. That bulldozing riff in the beginning, great soloing from Alex. This album is all about Alex, in my opinion. And his tone is just absolutely crushing here. I think Working Man is one of the all-time great heavy rock songs of the early part of the 70s. So, yeah, had to be on this list pretty high because I've always been a fan. It's a really fun song to play on guitar, too. So, yeah, that's my pick, number 6. Working Man from the first album. All right, top 5. Tough, really tough, because all 5 of these are legendary songs, and they all come from the same 3 albums. So I'm going to go with number 5. Again, really, number 5 and number 4 were like neck and neck because they're tied together. Had to pick one over the other. I'm going to go with Cygnus X1 Book 2 from Hemispheres. Total time is 1808. Kicks off the album. It's got multiple parts. It's amazing. I think it's more melodic than Book 1. I think it's maybe a little more, I don't want to say hummable or singable, but maybe a little more anthemic. I think Book 1 is a little more like crazy prog, whereas this is a little more, slightly more accessible. It's not, I mean, it's still complicated, heavy prog rock, but I just think that this one is, if I was talking to someone who was kind of new to Rush and they're still, I would probably, if I was starting to recommend the epic songs, I'd probably do this one first, even though it's longer, because I think there's more accessible bits to Book 2. It's amazing, though. I mean, Getty is wailing up a storm. The bass is so good. The nice use of synths. The drumming is off the charts. Great guitar work. Lots of great layers. It's an amazing song. It's an amazing song. However, I think I like Book 1 just a tiny bit more. It's just as heavy. Maybe it's a little darker. Maybe that's why I like it more. It's 10 minutes and 25 seconds, again, from A Farewell of Kings. But I don't know. I tend to, when I compare the two, I think I prefer Book 1 just a hair. And we're really splitting hairs here. But I think it's definitely a little bit more intricate. It's not quite as approachable as Book 2. But they're both amazing. Kind of would be cool to would have been weird or interesting or fun to see Rush go and play like Book 1 and Book 2 back to back, like in concert. How cool would that be? So, but yeah. Anyway, that's my number 4. Number 3, let's not put this album away because we're going to go to Xanadu from The Farewell of Kings at 11:05. It's a work of genius. It's an absolute work of genius. The synth work is masterful on here. Again, he's just learning how to play all this stuff, but it's just so good. And the use of like atmospherics and when to go bombastic and when not. Getty's vocals are terrific. Great riffs and drumming. The guitar soloing is great on it. I mean, Xanadu is just perfect. And Neil's nice use of all the different percussive things. Just absolutely brilliant. Xanadu is terrific. It's easily a top 10 song in the catalog for me, probably a top 5. So good. Number 2. I mean, I had a hard time with the top 5, like where to put these. In the end, they're all great, right? But, and I had to almost stop myself from putting this at number 1 because I really almost kind of want to. But I have to go with La Villa Strangiato, 934. One of the great prog rock instrumentals of all time. It's amazing. Even better on All the World's a Stage live album, in my opinion. As great as the studio version is, I think it's even better on that live album. This is the Alex Lifeson showcase for me. I mean, all the other two guys are doing amazing stuff also, but this is all about Alex's guitar work. You know, that opening, just wonderful piece in the beginning on the acoustic guitar, and then the blazing electric, and his guitar solo on here is, legendary. Just so good. So good. People talk about some of the great guitar solos of all time. Comfortably Numb, and the list goes on and on and on. Man, you gotta include La Villa Strangiato in there from Alex Life's. You just have to. It's absolutely brilliant the way the whole song is structured and paced. Just amazing. So yeah, number two, La Villa Strangiato, and number one can only be by process of elimination, right? 2112 from the album of the same name, 20 minutes and 34 seconds, right? Does that jive with? I don't know, 2033. Yeah, there's always like a minute difference from depending on where you look at it, or a second difference. 2112 is, again, incredible. Like I said earlier, they took what they learned from Caress of Steel, fine-tuned it to perfection. This is a crushingly heavy song in spots. It's got the whole sci-fi concept, really well use of all the kind of vocals and vocal effects, and amazing guitar shredding from Alex. The drums are just pile driving. And man, the riffing is just, this is progressive metal, people. You can say what you want. It's so funny because there's so many people that when it comes to Rush, they're like, Rush are not a prog band. And then when you include them on a prog list, people will complain about that. If you don't put them on a prog list, why is Rush not here? They're one of the best prog bands of all time. And when you include them in a prog metal list, they're like, they were never metal. And if you don't include them on a prog metal list, why are they not there? They're one of the most influential bands to the whole prog metal scene. Yes, 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 and yes, and yes. They're all of these things and more. Rush is one of those bands. They deserve to be in so many places like that. All right. To me, without question, the title track to 2112 is highly, highly, highly influential to every single progressive metal band that popped up in the 80s and 90s. I don't care what you tell me. From Fate's Warning to Dream Theater to Queensryche to every other band that came, Symphony X, every other band that came in its wake. You don't get a lot of that stuff without this album, and specifically with that epic title track. It's amazing. It's so good. So good. We are the priests of the temples of Syrinx. Bum, 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 bum. It's just an amazing song. An amazing song. One of the greatest of the heavy prog rock epics of all time, and the greatest Rush epic of all time. So that's my list. 2112, number 1. La Villa Strangiato, number 2. Xanadu, number 3. Cygnus X1, Book 1, The Voyage, number 4. Cygnus X1, Book 2, Hemispheres, number 5. Working Man, number 6. Bytor and the Snow Dog, number 7. Jacob's Ladder, number 8. The Necromancer, number 9. Natural Science, 10. Clockwork Angels, 11. The Camera Eye, 12. The Fountain of Lamna, 13. The Garden, 14. Headlong Flight, 15. And Here Again, number 16. Rank them as you like them down in the comments below. And as I mentioned on the morning show here, in case you missed it, is we are going to be doing a show on In the Prog Seat, kind of like an album study show, but dedicated to 1975, and specifically the two albums released by Rush in 1975, Caress of Steel and Fly By Night, on an upcoming In the Prog Seat episode in just a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. If you are a Rush fan, you do not want to miss that. We'll be kind of picking apart those albums, what worked, what didn't, and how both of those albums were so important to where Rush went immediately afterwards, starting with this, going into, of course, Hemispheres and The Farewell to Kings, right? So that's all coming up on In the Prog Seat in just a couple of weeks, so stay tuned for that. Visit us on the web at www.seaoftranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube all together, all the damn time. Please subscribe if you haven't already, and click on that notification bell so you get alert of all of our content as it posts. And please do hit the like button before you leave. Also down below we got the links to our Ko-Fi page for channel donations, our merch page, our Cameo page, and the Sea of Tranquility membership options. Thank you all for your support. Greatly appreciated. And we'll see you soon here with more stuff. We've got more of these Ranking the Epic shows coming in the weeks and months ahead. We got Dream Theater on the list. We got a lot of bands on the list. So, Dream Theater is going to be interesting because they've got a ton of long songs. So we may have to do like a cutoff there of 15 minutes or so because they've got a lot of really lengthy tracks. So 10 minutes might not even be good because you might have 20 songs. We'll see. Maybe 10 minutes is where we go there. I'm not really sure. But I know they have a lot of songs over 10 minutes. But there's lots of other bands that we are going to consider. So more are coming. Stay tuned. I know some people mentioned they'd love to see Metallica being done on this. We probably will do that as well. So all that coming and lots more on the channel. I am Pete Pardo. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you soon. Bye-bye.